Welcome to your 2022 Acura MDX, fully refreshed for the 4th generation. We'll do the drive, we'll take a look at the outside, we'll take a look at the inside, and a few other bits in between, and that should wrap us up. So under the hood, it's the same engine as it was in the 3rd generation, which is a 3.5-liter V6, putting out 290 horsepower, 267, but the difference here is 3rd generation had a 9-speed transmission, and what we have for 2022 is a 10-speed transmission. Not really that much of a difference on the driving side, at least for the time that I've had it for. The drive in typical Acura form is very smooth. It's very, very comfortable. I've had no issues. Acceleration is respectable. I don't think you're going to beat anybody off the line in an MDX, but for day-to-day driving, which is pretty much what almost everybody's going to be doing, it performs very well. It's quick, it's brisk, no issues getting on the highway, no issues passing anybody or getting out of a potential collision situation here. And it's smooth acceleration. It's not stomp your foot down and your head's going to whip back. You might get that sometimes you put it in sport mode, but for your everyday driving, which is going to be either in normal or comfort or snow, depending on the climate you're in, the MDX does perform very well. As far as cornering and handling goes, it does it respectively well for a 7-seater SUV. I don't suggest you carve around turns and twists and corners and stuff, but for everyday driving on city streets and on highways and some of the back roads, the MDX performs quite well. Acura MDXs do have their SH-AWD, which is their super handling all-wheel drive. I haven't had any issues with it in all the years I've been doing this. Only a handful of times have I ever been in the snow with an Acura vehicle, but every time I have, the super handling all-wheel drive has worked extremely well. Noise, vibration, harshness at a minimum here, and with this being a 2022 model and Acura having to pull out all the stops because there's the Lexus RX, there is that brand new Infiniti QX60, and then there is the Audi, Mercedes, and BMW offerings. I think Acura really had to go over and above, and for the week that I've had it, they've done a really good job of that. It's a very quiet cabin, even though it's got larger wheels, 19 or 20s depending on the trim that you get. There's not a lot of noise that bleeds in here. Even small things like the turn signal is on right now, and it's not that loud, obnoxious clicking. They've dampened it a little bit, so it's still a nice and enjoyable driving experience. City driving done very well. Sometimes it gets a little muddy in the gearbox between 3rd and 4th and 4th and 5th if you're kind of just doing between 50 and 60, depending on again how much throttle you give the vehicle. But for the most part, city driving in the MDX is done well. Highway driving, it's so smooth and it's just effortless from the MDX, and I think Acura's done a really good job here of putting together something that is truly worth having their flagship name behind, which this one does. Wrapping up the driving portion, we'll touch on fuel consumption and then move on to the exterior. So on a 70-liter fuel tank, in liters per 100 kilometers, we're at 12.6 on the city streets, 9.4 on the highway, and a blended total comes out to 11.2. Not too bad considering the size and the weight of the vehicle, and it's a 3.5 naturally aspirated V6. So respectable, pretty much in line with its competitors. Sure, gas is $1.50, $1.60, depending on where you live. But if you want a bigger vehicle, it's going to cost you a little more money to fill up the tank every time. Taking a look at the outside of the MDX, I think Acura's done a really good job in creating something minimalistic, yet stylish that stands out. So up front, you still have the jewel eye headlights. You have that big diamond grille, huge Acura logo up front, and good on them. Own it. Make your presence known. Side profile looks pretty good. There's not really a lot you can do with this size and style of vehicle. Sure, you can put some creases in the sheet metal and get some tapered looks here and there, but I think it looks good for what it is. I wouldn't really change a lot of it. I like the taillights. They're nice and thin and kind of flare out at the ends. Looks really sharp. There's a bit of chrome on the tailgate. Not really a big fan of that. Same thing with the chrome outline on the windows. It's not might be your thing, and it's not my thing. I could do without it. Onto the interior we go. So every MDX gets this beautiful digital dash. It looks really sharp, and it's got the nice minimalistic look. And interestingly, you can change the layout, and that's very similar to what the QX60 has. And I know this came up before the QX60, but the QX60 is building off the Rogue and the Pathfinder, which had it before the MDX did. Anyways, my long explanation for that is you can change it from the two big dials to two rather thin slivers, and that and the QX60 have very similar design elements. Anyways, digital dash, standard fare, looks really sharp. A bit of a quirk here, when you put it into comfort mode, the numbers on the speedometer and tachometer go away. You still have a digital speedometer in the middle, or a digital readout in the middle, plus an optional heads-up display, which this one has, so you always know what speed you're going. I just find it peculiar and very quirky that in comfort mode, you don't have any numbers where there are numbers in sport mode, in normal mode, and in snow mode. Steering wheel, one of my favorites in the industry. It's big, it's thick, it heats up real quick. The entire wheel is heated. All of your controls for your audio are on your left thumb. All of your speed and cruise controls are on your right thumb, and it's just such an easy layout. It feels good, looks really, really sharp. Here's the part I don't like. It's the infotainment system. I don't like the trackpads. I don't think a lot of people like trackpads. It's distracting to put your finger down and just try and find what you're getting to, and then look up at the actual 12.3-inch screen itself. The screen's great. It's high res, it looks sharp, easy to pull your information out of, but it's not touch at all. It has to be through this pad, and I hope that Acura follows in Lexus's lead. Lexus is slowly starting to do away with it. Their new NX has this massive, I think it's a 14 or 15-inch screen. It's distracting, it's not very intuitive. Yes, there's a learning curve. You will get it eventually, but that learning curve is very steep, and I hope that this is the last generation of vehicles from Acura, at least for the MDX goes, that has this touchpad, trackpad. It's been here for years. The feedback has been consistent, and anyways, moving on from that, a lot of hard touch buttons here, but they're small buttons. So sure, with my gloves off, they work just fine, but with my winter gloves on, it gets a little more precise. I wanted to put the fan speed up a couple, and I ended up knocking it down a couple. Just again, might be a me specific thing, but I find the buttons to be very small. I like that they're there. I absolutely do, and I only wear gloves a few months a year. The majority of my interactions with this will be without gloves, but just a little cumbersome at times to kind of find the right one. Your automatic start-stop and your brake holder just to the left of the gear selector. It is not a lever. It's got Acura's push buttons, so it's a nice, clean, spacious design. A bit of a quirk here, not quite an Irk. I'll give them half points for creativity and negative half points for over-designing things. Your USB-A, USB-C slots are through this little pop-up piece, and cool that it lights up at night, but I just didn't really have to be done like that. You could have just put two USB ports in there without it having to be an actual moving mechanism itself. A small little cubby hole just beneath the gear selector. Got a couple of cup holders, and nice place to rest your hand as you're actually rest your palm as you're playing around with the touchpad. Interestingly, it comes with standard wireless charging, standard wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, standard heated seats, and standard heated steering wheel. So Acura has done really well in providing lots of value regardless of what trim that you're getting. And obviously the higher up you go, the more you're going to get. Seats are very, very comfortable here in the MDX. I've done a lot of mileage here, and I haven't had an ounce of driver fatigue at all. It's bolstered the right way. There's just a lot of hip support, back support, thigh support. Lots of different ways you can move it and configure it, and I had no issues in finding my ideal seating position. I'd say within a minute of getting into it for the first time, so well done there. Headrests are 4 ways as opposed to 2 ways, so that also helps because we're not all built in the same shape or size. And over and above that, the seats look good, and they feel good, and they're comfortable. And if one of these showed up at my front door and I had to make it into an office chair, I absolutely would. Another touch on standard features, standard panoramic sunroof that really helps with your second and third row passengers as far as letting light in and opening up the cabin. Yes, the interior here is gray, so it's a lighter color, but every little bit of extra light helps, especially if you're doing a longer trip and you got somebody in that third row. The last thing you want is for them to feel any kind of tightness or claustrophobia or any kind of discomfort. A couple more things before we wrap up. You can remove the middle seat in the second row, which is so easy to do, and it's such a great feature. If I owned this, I would keep that middle seat out forever and ever and ever. I'd make it into a 6-seater and just give my second row passengers just a little bit of extra space to stretch out. Again, it's easy to take out, it's easy to put back in, just you pull a strap and out it comes. Second row seats, not that bad at all. It's fairly comfortable. I can fit behind myself without any issue. Third row, as is the case with every 3-row crossover, it's good, not great, a little cramped. I wouldn't put anybody in there for more than a couple of hours, maybe 3, depending on their comfort level. Last thing we're going to touch on is standard safety, and the list is long. It's on the screen right now. Everything from blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, lane departure warning, automatic cruise control. Acura has really done a terrific job in providing a lot of standard safety features here in the MDX, and I think they had to. The further we get in technology for vehicles, the more safety plays a key and vital role, so well done Acura on that side of things. That's going to wrap it up for the 2022 Acura MDX. If you got any questions on the vehicle, let me know in the comments and I will do my best to get you answers as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching, and feel free to subscribe if you haven't already, and feel free to tell somebody about the channel you think might be interested in what it is that I do. Let me find a quick place to park so I can do the ending properly and safely. Got that, and push down on the button for park. Thank you for watching. Be well, be healthy, be safe.